Good morning, listeners and viewers. You're listening to Random Sage with Maryann from Revealing Light. I have a special guest with me today. I have Erika from In the Company of Cards. She is a black Lenormand reader and psychic medium, Harvard educated. She began reading Lenormand. This is a French-German divination system more than 15 years ago. She's been psychic all her life. She reads on diverse global events, including politics, not always easy, race, culture, and climate. And the events that she covers are those that threaten democracy, individual rights, and freedoms. She has written a book, The Language of Lenormand, and that is available on Amazon. And she also has developed her own deck, Erika's Lenormand of Hope. And I've seen both, and they are beautiful cards. And I'm currently reading her book. There are other details about Erika that you can find on her website, and we'll give you that address before we leave today. We're going to be covering what it's like on the ground in the US from there, including what it's like for Black people in America. We'll go through to the today's announcement that tariffs would begin on March the 4th on Mexico and Canada and China, of course. Um, and then we'll move through to does she think, with many commentators posing the question, will the midterm elections actually occur in the US? We'll talk about that, and perhaps at the end of all of that, we might throw some cards. All right, so welcome, Erika. Thank you for joining me.
Oh, it's great to be with you. See you, Maryann, again. I'm thrilled. Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you very much. I am located in Australia and I follow US and global and Australian events because it's a bit shaky for us down here, down under, as we watch what is occurring in Europe and the Ukraine, and how the US is impacting and I guess distancing itself from its allies. So of course we have skin in the game here because we have several defence treaties with your government. Now I want to make it clear that when we refer to the US and the current events with the US, we are specifically referring to the Trump Vance Musk government. We know that Trump only won by just over 1% of the vote. We know that a significant amount of people, Americans, 90 million of them actually, eligible voters stayed home. There's not a big mandate there. What's going on in your country, Erika, at the moment?
Well, I mean, you're right. I mean, yes, the election was absolutely interfered with. That's the first thing. Uh, by Russia, China, Iran, whomever. It's also true, you're correct. 36% of Americans stayed home. Just, I think, out of apathy.
Hmm.
So that's a problem. And then we have the racial breakdown, which is also very disturbing. But I will say I am thrilled to be in the 92% of Black women who voted for Harris. So, what's going on in our country? I will tell you, our country is very, very split. I've always said that I thought, in my experience, living in America felt like being in a fun house. I don't know if you know what that expression, where you walk in and the mirrors are all distorted and there's 10 of you instead of one of you and you can't find your way out. America has always felt like that to me because we have a public image that we have exported to the world and also inculcated our own people with,
Yeah.
which is to say, rugged individualism, exceptionalism, apple pie, mom, Chevrolet, the flag,
The good
pride,
guys.
it's all of that.
Mm,
If you are Black, you've always known something's not right with this picture. And
yes.
you've also known if you call attention to it, you'll be smacked into place. But we've always known as Black people that that there was quite the gap between who we purport to be and who we actually are. What I think is happening now is that a larger percentage of Americans, not just those of us of color, but white Americans, are starting to say, wait a minute, this has been a fun house.
Mm,
We've taken, for example, the word woke and turned it into a pejorative. How
mm,
is it possible that being awake and alert is a bad thing? Because
mm,
what is the alternative? The alternative is to be asleep. I think a lot of Americans have been asleep. They've just gone along to get along. And of course, if you are white in this country, you are the default, right? Everything is seen with you as the sort of the backdrop and the standard. Well, what happened? So okay, so now we have Trump and Musk and Vance. And listen, I hear in my head the revolution of France, the storming of the Bastille.
yes.
Because here's what happened. I think that part of the funhouse effect was that white people were told, listen, you may be poor and you may be uneducated, but you see that guy with the golden toilet? You see that guy with the gold escalator? You look just like him. Look, you have the same skin as him. Matter of fact, if you really work hard, if you pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you too can have what he has.
Mm,
So there's this aspirational, attachment to somebody like Trump, not just, by the way, white people, but you saw it in the Latino community with the
mm,
males who voted in large measure for Trump. They identify with him. What will happen? And I say it with a smile, but it's not funny and it's not nice. And I'm sorry that it had to come to this, but oh well. Is that farmers who
mm,
had their produce subsidized by the government, which gave it to US aid to feed hungry people and have soft influence over there, uh, will not get those subsidies anymore. People will lose Medicaid. Your mother-in-law who made you tamales every Christmas and you love her and she's, the favorite of your children is going to be thrown out of the country. You don't mind all of them being thrown out, but not your mother-in-law because you like her.
mm,
I think that what will happen is, as they say, the rubber will meet the road, and people will feel personally what they had no problem having happen to people like me.
mm.
Feel
Erica,
it.
I think that's already occurring across
Mhm.
your country. I look and I see the Republican town halls where they're having to run out of the room because I saw a gentleman stand up in a very red district and say 30% of the workforce that you're cutting are veterans. How are you
Right.
looking after veterans? He couldn't answer the question.
Yeah.
He said he cut the meeting short and went, and they yelled at him, "You're not done yet." This is in a ruby red district, and that's just one. You're absolutely right. They're waking up, and they're feeling that pain. Going back to your point about the racism and exposing that also now, which is also a part of this, it was very clear that the Trump Vance Musk government went for DEI as soon as they came in. Now, I've heard Democratic politicians say don't call it DEI because people don't know. Acronyms are very hard for people who aren't in government to get their head around. It's white jobs only. Okay. And then we started to see that play out with um, uh, black people in America in high positions either let go. I think one was your Joint Chief of Staff,
The chairman of the
chairman,
joint. Mhm.
exactly, and that flowed all the way down the line. Is there a pushback against this? Do you think? Are we forced to now confront racism full on?
Listen, here's what I think. I think Black people and white people in this country are looking at this situation very differently.
Yes. Mm.
I think white people are saying, like, they're shocked, shocked, shocked. We're not shocked. we've been down this road so many
mm,
times in
mm,
all kinds of different iterations across generations. Then, I mean, so there's a saying, I don't know if you've heard it. Black women say it. We say, we're drinking our water and minding our black business.
mm, mm,
And that means that we are unbothered. In other words, if there's a call for people to go into the streets and demonstrate, it won't be us.
mhm,
It won't be us. We've done that already. We showed people how to do that. But we are just kind of sitting back and watching the shock, annoyed that it's shock, because again, we've tried for generations to tell people this. So I think people are waking up. I think it ultimately will come down to less about race and more about economics, right?
mm,
So
mm,
when these white farmers realize that in fact they have more in common with everybody black than they do with Trump and Musk, I think that you will see a coalition happening, but
mm.
it's going to have to be white people who lead this fight because we've done it. We've written the playbook for it, and we're not going to put our bodies on the front line in the
Yes,
way.
I I saw an incredible exhaustion from black women in America after the Harris-Walz campaign and the election. Total and utter exhaustion because
You know what's in you?
they were the manning the polls. They were the ones, handing out leaflets. Now, I'd be clear, they weren't the only ones. Let's be
No,
clear
of course
about that. But they put their heart, their soul, and their, as you say, their physicalness into trying to get her elected. So, I can only imagine the day after. I want to talk to you about civil liberties generally. And whether or not, I mean, it's pretty obvious to me looking on that there's a wine back going on.
not.
So are you then going to, when it directly impacts on you, I don't see how you stay out of the fight. I don't see
Well,
when.
I mean, there are ways of fighting and there are ways of fighting. I mean, this is really nothing little. Look, even with DEI, and think about what it is the acronym for: diversity, equity, and inclusion. How
Hmm.
are you against those things? Oh, it's because you're against being woke. So just, I mean, it's amusing. But DEI is actually a fairly recent acronym.
Hmm.
It didn't used to exist. And we, Black people, did not make it up. We
Hmm.
didn't make it up.
Hmm.
I think that all that's happening is that we are seeing face to face what once we saw through a glass darkly, to sort of paraphrase the Bible or paraphrase John Proctor from uh, Arthur Miller's play, The Crucible. There's a character in there, John Proctor, who's a farmer, and he gets accused of being a witch. Well, he's not. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but anyway, he's not. And if he ends up getting executed, but he says at one point in the court, we are as we always were, only naked now.
Hmm.
To me,
Hmm.
this is the great, on the one hand, tragedy and the great opportunity that we are presented with now.
Hmm.
What do we do with this? Do we really want to be a more perfect union, or we just want to talk about it? I'm not sure about what the answer is, to tell you the truth. I think the jury is out on that.
I think I mean I had uh, uh, on my channel a lot of my viewers, particularly with what we're seeing happening to Europe and Ukraine, and obviously it could happen to countries like mine. In a way, the mask was ripped off as well. Okay, this is all transactional. We don't really care what happens to you. We only care if it affects our interests. So the nice words went out the door. We saw the ugly face of everything. Um, m- so many of my viewers were ashamed. So many elderly, not elderly, older women particularly I worry about, were absolutely broken and ashamed, are ashamed. And I wrote a message on on my
Saw
channel,
that.
and I said, please, you don't be ashamed. You are not to be ashamed. You are not Trump. You are not Vance. You're not Musk. You're not MAGA. And you are compassionate. These are women who fought for women's rights back in the day, who did the protests, who did the put their bodies on the line, so to speak, you know, whatever they needed to do, chain themselves to something. They did that. Uh, and to see this, to see this being wound back is heartbreaking for them. But the shame that they're feeling, I said, don't feel that shame. And I said to my husband Eric, I said, I don't want them to feel shame because it's such a impact on health. I always think how our emotions impact on our health. And my husband turned around and he said, you can't stop them from feeling the shame.
No.
And
And
do you,
Maryann, it's true. Shame, there's a difference, I'm going to say, between, though, shame and responsibility. Shame,
yes,
you're right.
that's it.
Shame is not helpful.
No.
However, responsibility is a different thing. Every white person in this country benefits from racism.
Mm.
I'm not saying that they are flat out racist, but they benefit from it. They have an agreement with it to conduct themselves in a certain way. I'll give you an example. When I would teach, I would have a student come in and say, "Oh, my brother didn't get into Harvard, Yale, Princeton, whatever, and my mom says it's because somebody black took their seat." There is an entitlement among white people that says that that seat in that class was their seat because
Mm.
that's how they're trained. That's what they're trained to believe. For us, we know that you have to work twice as hard to get half as far, not because you're half as good, but because it takes you working twice as hard for people to recognize that, oh, maybe you are the best person for the job. So I think that this shame that they're feeling is part of it's an opportunity to say, wait a minute, I was in a fun house. I too was in a fun house. I didn't know. I wasn't aware. I didn't see. The question is what you do with that. Are you so shamed that you go back into a little ball and let things happen? Or do you say, damn it, I should not have been coerced to participate in this the way that I have? And I'm not going to have it anymore.
Yeah, I was more talking about their reactions to what was happening in Ukraine and Europe and to the Allies.
But
They
it
were
is
totally ashamed.
embarrassing. It is, as an American, it is embarrassing.
Yeah.
It,
So the other way to look at this is if you didn't feel shame, then what sort of person are you?
exactly, exactly,
And so feel the shame and
exactly.
understand that you are not them because they feel no shame.
No shame. That's right.
I want to get on to how people are mobilizing generally on the streets. I mean, I hear that there are protests most days. I now see that there are protests outside Tesla dealers. There's a lot of pushback going on across all demographics,
Right.
whether that's red state, blue state, purple state, whatever.
Right.
Do you see that? Do you feel that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that a lot of it is taking place in terms of boycotts, economic boycotts.
Yeah.
Because, listen, we did the people in the streets thing. And, again, he'll just call martial law, look for the people of color and put those in jail first. But economic boycott, I mean, we have Target, which is a big store here, where one-stop shop, you could find everything, and Black people loved it. I mean, you could find it was like a wonderland of consumerism. They've lost something like, I don't know, $18 billion in the past month or two just because of the boycotts. So I think there will continue to be rolling economic boycotts. We're doing, like, there's boycotts, for example, no buy Mondays, where you don't buy anything on Mondays. And then certain stores that are just altogether targeted. And how do you decide to target them? If they contributed to Trump, which a
Mhm.
lot of them do, and it's a shocking, shocking list. So hitting them in their pocketbook, I think that's huge. I
Mm.
also think holding politicians to account. You've already mentioned the town halls, and it's not just the Republicans, by the way, that are catching heat. It's Democrats. When
Yes.
this first happened, and we had the inauguration, there was a groundswell of questioning of Democrats, like, what are you doing? You know what the response was? Um, give us some time to figure it out. What? Give you
Mm.
what? Give you some time. Now, a lot of it too is it's not just that it's Republicans and Democrats and, black hats and white hats. It's not like that. You've got a whole political class that is grounded in neoliberalism. Neo sounds great, new, right? Liberalism sounds great, but neoliberalism, you put the word together, and what is it really about? It comes from Reaganism, and it's that trickle down theory. Democrats, including Clinton,
Mm.
Obama, Biden, and Harris, all subscribe to this sort of incrementalism. And I think when I talk about the Bastille, I think that what's going to happen is that politicians are going to be required to do more than talk about incrementalism.
Mm.
I and I think what's happening with the politicians is they're waiting to see that from the grassroots, and that the grassroots is what's going to give them, wind beneath their wings to act. I
Mm.
think we're about to see some really shocking, disturbing news about who's on the take and how long Trump and Putin have been in bed together, we'll call it, since 1987, as far as I can
Yes.
tell.
Yes.
And and then you wonder about the politicians in the House and the Senate. Why are they so relatively quiet? Well, one wonders how many of them have had their pots sweetened. All of that's going to come out. This is Pluto and Aquarius, and I'm no
Mm.
astrologer, so I defer
Mm.
to you on that. But
Mm.
I think it's wonderful because it means that the fun house falls apart. We are left with the shards, and then we have to ask ourselves, if this is who we are, who is it that we want to be? It's a wonderful, wonderful opportunity.
Yes, that is consistent with everything that I've seen and read on and in the work that I do. That there will be this great change, that there is no going back to the past, that it will take bold visions for the future, bold ideas, new ideas that are not based on the past.
Right.
So in a way, we're all in this re or invention stage,
Yep.
including the multipolar world. So, what is happening in your country, I see happening right across the world. And the masks are off. There will be obviously pain involved, but there'll also be opportunities. Now, you see that Europe are coming together and
Yes.
strengthening themselves. You see Canada more or less becoming a member of the EU in everything but name only. You see trade alliances breaking down. In my country, in Australia, we've had Chinese nuclear armed warships
Mhm.
circumnavigating our country. They're 500 kilometres out. They're not in Australia's zones at all. They're still in international waters, but they are obviously trying to send us a message. Now, we had also the current president, Trump, say that they wanted to bring more chip manufacturing to the US just in case something might happen to Taiwan. So, you know,
Right.
we Australia is in a position too where it needs to really do a Canada and
That's
start
right.
to look around, because what I see is some of those defence treaties that we have with Trump, Musk, and Vance. I see them coming under fire. I think our turn will come, and we need to stay ahead of that game. I'm not totally convinced China wants to take over Australia. I don't think that that's the case at all. But I do feel they want some sort of neutrality. Now, whether we can align more with Europe and the Commonwealth, because we're part of the Commonwealth, and still keep a relationship with China and still keep Trump reasonably off our backs, let's just put it that
Mhm.
way. That's a tough call, and we're in the middle of an election cycle. So, we've got our problems as well here. So, oh, looks okay. I'm just going to
10 minutes. Ten
run out
minutes.
of time soon. Let's move to the midterms, Erica. I spoke to some psychics during the last couple of weeks. They talk about not seeing the midterms take place. I have a different clairvoyant view of that. I've seen ballots and ballots being printed. Do you see the midterms occurring? Do you think he would go that far? I'm talking about Trump.
I think he will try, but there will be midterm elections. Absolutely.
Okay. So
Absolutely.
and the same goes for 2028. It's not
Yes.
something that he can pull off at all.
No, he'll try. I mean,
Mm.
but see, he does this. He throws out a line and then sees whether, whether it works, whether he can reel the fish in or not. He would love to have a third term. That's not going to happen. No,
Mm.
we will have midterms. We will have the election in 2020, 28. I don't think that he will not last his whole term. Let me just
No,
put it that
no. I have seen that he ends his presidency sooner rather than later and doesn't do a full 4 years.
way.
Of course, that leaves America with Vance, and we all know the mask came off with J.D. Vance, and we know exactly what he is about. In many ways, a different problem from Trump.
Well, I think that if let's say that happens, he is Project 2025's
Mm,
poster boy. And I
mm,
will tell you that I suspect that there are many, many, many Trump supporters who are even currently Trump supporters that want nothing to do with Project 2025 and Vance. So
mm.
we welcome them to our side of the revolution.
So I think we should, we've got about 8 minutes left. I think we should just pull short cards on the midterms, whether or
Okay?
not the Democratic Party in America, and it's a coalition of pushback really that would take the midterms over the line to give to take the House away from Republicans. Given that we both see the midterms occurring, shall we throw? All right.
Yeah, so what I'm going to do, because it's Lenormand, I'm going to uh, pick, excuse me, pick a focus card, a significator, and that's going to be the letter, and it will stand for midterm votes. And I'm just going to see what's around. Okay.
Hmm. Yeah. Okay. Nice.
Okay, I like what I got too. What did you
Yeah,
get?
I got very good cards. Um, uh, well, very quickly, I got the Fool and the Magician for the signifier cards. You would know that we're manifesting a new start here. We've got at the base of the pack the Ten of Pentacles, so it will be based on people losing money, unfortunately, by then. We have obviously anxiety, a lot of it in the past. Okay, so we're fast forwarding to 2026. We have an inevitability and a judgment hanging over this reading. So, crowning this reading is they're making judgments by the time we get there. They want a new start. The outcome card is the King of Cups, which is maturity, wisdom, and wise choices. It's also a yes card. I think the House goes back to Democrats because it's such a charred, burnt mess by the time we get to 2026 that they have to do something.
Right.
Okay, what do you get?
So I have the moon, the young woman. Here are the midterm races. The scales, which is the card that I actually added to the system, and the coffin.
Ooh.
Very interesting. So how I read that is, this is the card for reputation, how
Mm.
other people see you, and also your own self-image. And what we do in Lenormand is we can do a thing called mirroring. We can look at the first card and mirror it or talk about it alongside the last card. This is an opportunity for us to take our reputation and transform it. Why
Yes.
am I calling this transformation? Because physics tells us that two things cannot take up the same space at the same time. Something will have to end in order for something to be born. And I think this is the card for transformation of our country from what it really has been into a better version of what it would like to be. Now, I think women are going to be pivotal in this race. We've lost a lot of our rights, but I think that women will understand it's not just a question of one time pulling a lever and poof, everything is fine. You know, yeah, the arc of the moral arc of the universe bends towards justice, but sometimes it goes like this. And we're not promised the win. What all we're promised is the war. So
Mm.
I think that women will be invigorated, and I love this mirroring this because this is a card that I asked to be put in the deck. It's an evenly weighted scale, but we've got heavy coins on the one side and just a couple of light daisies on the other. What have we valued in the past? What
Yes.
should we be giving more weight? How can we balance ourselves better so that this is not the be all and end all, right?
Mm.
So I definitely think, yes, there will be midterms. I do think that we will flip the house for sure.
Yes.
Yes.
Erika, we're running out of time, unfortunately, now. And so I just want to thank you for coming on, and thank you for your time, and thank you for your reading. I think a lot of people will sleep better tonight knowing that two psychic mediums can see the midterms, and we'll see how it all plays out. So thank you for your time, and
Thank you for having me. And I do consider you a sister friend, in life and in the work. And so thank you so much. It's wonderful to see you again and be with your viewers.
thank you very much, Erika. You're listening to Random Sage with Maryann from Revealing Light, and of course, Erika. Erika, you can find her channel in the Company of Cards. Take a look at the information that she presents on her channel, and you'll find her website there, which is sorry, we
Oh, yeah, it's Lenormand with Erika at Gmail. That's my email. And that's lenormandwitherica.com. Everything is on my YouTube channel. If you click the more button, you can find everything there.
fantastic. Thank you very much, Erika. Bye for now, everyone.
Bye.